Happy Saturday, everyone. Doing the stream this morning a little bit on the early side to make sure that you are ready and prepared for your day. Happy Saturday, everyone. We are starting off with a decent amount of cloud cover across portions of the area, as well as a little bit of patchy fog, but it's not too dense or widespread at this time. In fact, things are starting to clear up a bit. You can still see some of those low clouds over toward uptown Charlotte, but notice for Dallas, things are starting to clear out a bit. So yes, we will see sunshine this afternoon. It's not going to be a completely cloudy day by any stretch of the imagination. Fog potential has also gotten a little bit better. I still do think we could see some denser portions of fog up in the mountains, as I did see a better chance of rain yesterday. In fact, we did have some pockets of really heavy rain at rates of about 3 inches per hour. I know that Brad was getting some reports. I believe up in portions of Beach Mountain about some localized flash flooding. It can happen really quickly with rainfall rates that high, which are higher because of our higher humidity and moisture levels. And of course, the fact that those areas are of higher elevation. Now, this morning, again, we do have some patchy fog. It's worse right now down toward Rock Hill, seeing 2.5 miles, but really anything above about 1 mile is normally pretty good in terms of staying closer to you. Now seeing it further away, it's a little bit of a different story, but thankfully things are starting to improve this morning. Nightly News with Lester Holt Kids Edition is on. It's super, 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 super cute. They're talking about Sesame Street. So if you're not watching this, hopefully you're watching that. High pressure is still overhead most of the southeast right now, but eventually we are going to get some of that more moist air coming in. Warm air coming in from the south and west typically is what's referred to as the blowtorch here in the Carolinas. So we get a lot warmer. Our average high this time of year is about 79, but we are once again expected to be in the low to mid 80s today. And with all of that humidity, I've even seen a few areas of some patchy drizzle so far this morning. I know that Kaylin Hatwood, one of my New Week in Morning anchor, did also mention that she saw some drizzle too when she was coming into work. This happens a lot when we see low cloud cover and a little bit of moisture there. Oftentimes around the winter, we talk about how we have moisture trying to come from clouds, but then it's dry in those mid levels. So things do start to kind of clear out by the second half of the day because that dries up. This is kind of the opposite of that, right? The rain does eventually fall because, of course, it's really muggy out there. Courtney, good morning. Reporting some drizzle in the Mountain Island area. Thanks for the report. Frizzy hair day, 100%. I don't know if you caught it earlier. I believe it was at our 7:56 or maybe 8:26 cut in, but I mentioned I was like the frizz is off the charts today. So Courtney, I truly, truly feel you. The gals with naturally curly hair, I'm sure feel you as well. Me too. So other than, of course, the fact that we are seeing some of that locally dense fog and, of course, some patchy drizzle this morning, low clouds will stick around for a few more hours, but eventually sunshine will return. I believe we're going to go from pretty much mostly cloudy to eventually partly sunny, but that'll be an opportunity for some of those storms to pop in, especially with the sunshine. Highs this afternoon will reach the low to mid 80s. We'll be in the lower 80s for the most part again tomorrow, but we will see some slightly drier conditions. And again, clouds and sunshine. So I don't think one day is necessarily sunnier than the other, but I do think that tomorrow is not going to be quite as hot and temperatures aren't going to be um quite as hot. Temperatures aren't going to be quite as high. That's pretty much the same thing. What I meant to say was that rain chances aren't going to be quite as high either. A closer look at futurecast, you can kind of see the rain chances today are truthfully overall skimpy. I do think that we have the best chance of rain and storms mainly along and north of the I-40 corridor today, but it is really not going to be widespread. It's going to be scattered. And for the Charlotte metro area, especially after about 4 p.m., I think is our best chance to see some of those storms. Actually, heavier rain possible over toward the Raleigh-Durham area. So if you have plans to maybe drive, up to NC State, I don't know if they have college graduation this week in like some of our local schools, but that will be something that you might encounter. And then again, Sunday morning, we're cloudy to start off the day, but eventually some sunshine peaks through by the afternoon. Kind of a similar setup overall to today, but slightly drier and not quite as toasty. In fact, as you look at futurecast, you can really see that the rain chances tomorrow are even lower than today. But notice some cloud cover coming in by Sunday evening. Well, that'll be ahead of what's called a backdoor cold front moving through the Charlotte metro area. These fronts are, I would say, a complicated setup, and it is a complicated setup, but essentially the term backdoor just means that it's coming in from the north and east versus coming in from the north and west where our cold fronts typically come from. It's also a different wind direction shift, so they shift instead of out from the south to the northwest, which is normal, south to the northeast. So essentially we have warm and moist air really pumping in this weekend. Eventually this backdoor front starts to move through the area tomorrow night and then into Monday. That'll bring us that opportunity to see some more widespread cloud cover and widespread rain activity on Monday. In fact, Monday is likely going to be our cloudiest and our wettest day of the upcoming week. However, that front's also going to bring us some of that slightly drier air. And boy, do we need it. Courtney, you mentioned it a second ago. Things are really, really sticky this weekend. Now, the dew point right now is 66 in Charlotte. If it was summertime, I would be begging for 66. But unfortunately, it is not yet. And we have been in the 40s and 50s as of late, even some days in the 30s. So it's just a substantial change from what we've been used to. And you can kind of see on our map here that the red gets us into the uncomfortable, eventually oppressive. And we know miserable is typically at the peak of summer, right? So we're not quite there yet. But I do want to show you some improvement if you're like Courtney and I, and you suffer from that frizzy hair. So today, of course, our dew points in the mid 60s. Tomorrow, as we start to see that shift, as that front starts to move through, we are going to see more of, I would say, low 60s for the most part, maybe some upper 50s even for the mountains. And again, that's in the afternoon. But watch what happens as we get closer to Monday. And I'll give you kind of a hint here. It gets even better on Tuesday. Look at that. By 12, 1 o'clock on Monday, our dew point has dropped to 53 and will likely drop back down into the 40s for Tuesday, parts of Tuesday and Wednesday. So 66 now. That dew point's going to drop almost 15 degrees by the time we get closer to Monday. So drier air will make it feel just more comfortable, won't be quite as sticky, even on Monday afternoon, as we'll be tracking areas of rain. Now, it does look like that drier air will at least stick around, like I mentioned, through Tuesday and Wednesday, but it does look like eventually we kind of get back into that scattered storm pattern as we get closer to the end of the work week. So today, scattered storms, tomorrow more isolated. So for Mother's Day, a lot less coverage overall in terms of storm activity. Rain chances heavy at times, but more widespread on Monday. Again, that's the coolest day of the week. I think Tuesday and Wednesday are the best days to get outside. I lean toward Tuesday just because upper 70s to me sounds slightly better than lower 80s. It's not that I don't like 84 and dry, but I'll take a day in the upper 70s, especially as we get to the middle part of May. And then eventually rain and storms do return by the end of next week and heading into the weekend. So overall for this weekend, I would really tell you that if you have anything outside to do, I wouldn't reschedule it. I would just have a plan in place, just like what you would do, right? If it started storming. So you got a party in the backyard, right? For the kiddos, maybe know that you would go inside. Maybe you have brunch plans outside with your mom. If there was a storm, I guess brunch tomorrow won't be wet, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't know, dinner plans maybe tomorrow with mom. If there's an isolated storm, just have plans to go inside. And of course, if you have plans to go to the Knights game today, I think today would be a day we'll be watching the storms potentially. Tomorrow we look pretty good since that's at 1 o'clock. Of course, Tuesday and Wednesday, the Knights games will be great. Charlotte FC on Wednesday looks great too. And then we'll be watching the storms for Thursday and Friday. It's just kind of the name of the game this time of year. But if you don't want to have to worry about that at all, I would say Tuesday and Wednesday especially are going to be good days to get outside. So hopefully this helped you prepare your weekend. Other than the isolated storm potential, it is warm and muggy. Make sure you're staying hydrated. One of my good friends is doing the half marathon, I believe, tomorrow. And I was telling her yesterday when we were at the gym, I was like, the number one thing is just make sure you're staying hydrated. It's just that time of year. And with the humidity up a little bit, you're going to notice it probably a little bit more. I hope you all have a happy, safe, healthy, wonderful Saturday ahead. Happy Mother's Day in advance to all the moms out there, including, of course, my own. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, everybody.